Paulina Pinsky is back, and we have a great conversation. I don't even really know what we talked about. We just talked about a lot of good stuff. I don't know, about Georgia going away to college and having her dad be famous, about her being 10 months into sobriety and what that's like, and the highs and lows of regular life when you're sober. I don't know. We just had a great conversation. I have such a genuine connection to Paulina, which I find really fascinating because I'm closer in age to her parents, and I love her parents. They're great people, but Paulina and I just have a great relationship, I feel like. I feel like she's an old soul, and so maybe even though she's only 29, she may be, and maybe I'm only like 40, maybe we're both 40. Let's go with that. Anyway, it's a great talk with Paulina. I'm so glad to see her. She is doing another session of the Artist's Way in January. If you would like, you can check it out and sign up. I'm giving away another scholarship. Wife of the Party is going to sponsor another scholarship for her Artist's Way workshop in January. So check it out. Thanks for coming back every week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for sharing with your friends. And I hope you enjoy this episode with Paulina. Look at your pretty feet. You have pretty feet.
Considering that I like shoved them in ice skating boots for so long, they really are okay.
They're really pretty.
Thank you.
You know, pretty feet are.
What?
What?
I'll break into the foot pick industry.
Oh, believe me, there's someone who watches.
Yeah.
And they'll say, 1 hour 40 foot. And you're like, what?
Do they need my number?
Every single episode. Yeah. There's one post. If a foot shows up, in some capacity,
I'm ready to give them foot all episode long.
Isla has decided she wants to have an OnlyFans page that's just her feet.
Oh my gosh. She could make good money that way.
That's what she said. She was like, I'm not really doing porn, but I know that people
But I am doing sex work without sex.
I'm just showing my feet. So I'm not doing anything wrong. What someone does with that is none of my business. But I think I can make a lot of money. And I'm like, I kind of love your brain and I kind of am terrified.
Yeah, I was about to say the children are our future and she's on to something.
I mean, I'm like, how do you know what OnlyFans is? How do you know that's a porn site? That's a little,
how does she not know? Everybody knows.
I guess, but I don't know. You'd like to think at 16 she doesn't know. Right?
Not in 2022.
Right. She's so funny.
Oh my God.
We were hanging out. My best friend, one of my best friends, Sandy, turned 50 last week. And we were all at her house and we were laughing because, you know, this group of friends I have now, the campers, all are because we have kids the same age.
Yeah.
So we were all at the same elementary school. We all had kids. We were all in it together throughout this whole thing. We've all been in it together, right? So we were gossiping that another kid from the neighborhood got busted, like totally like doing it in a bathroom at a party with a boy. And she's 16.
Oh.
And we're all like, oh my God. And then one of the dads in the group went, do kids these days do that kind of stuff? Obviously, someone just got busted in the bathroom for like getting it on. So
haven't they always done it?
I mean, we did. So why would we think it would change? Just 30 years later doesn't really, 40, whatever it is, later doesn't really change hormones, does it?
No, but also porn exposure can happen as early as 9.
Oh, I can't even with
and
that.
That's what's so scary is that these kids, 11/11, make a wish.
Ooh.
That's also my birthday.
Is it your birthday, 11/11?
Mm-hmm.
Shut up. Where's 11/3? I'm going to write that
11/3?
Right,
oh, he's coming up.
Yeah,
we're
50.
both Scorpios. That's amazing.
I know. I have my BFFs. Sandy's a Scorpio. One of my, I have several BFFs. One
That's
of my
so funny because you're a Leo, right?
I'm a Leo, but I'm Aries moon, Aries rising. I'm like,
you're so much fire.
I know. That's why I fire those people. I'm like,
I'm a Sag rising Gemini moon.
Holy, all over the place.
Ace of mess. I've had a lot of therapy for a reason.
I kind of love it though.
I mean, it makes complete sense because like I'm like secretly very intense.
Yeah.
Because you see me and you're like, wow, she's so like outgoing and she talks to people and fun. And then you talk to me and I'm like, tell me about the worst thing that's ever happened to you and let's write about it. You know, like, and then the Gemini is like very cerebral.
Yeah.
But Aries, you're just setting things on fire, but also like this while you do it with the Leo.
I don't know. You know, someone told me once that there are 2 aspects to every sign.
Yeah.
There's a male and female, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Scorpio is either an eagle or a scorpion.
Yeah. Oh, also
Depending.
Phoenix too.
Oh, maybe Phoenix and eagle are interchangeable somewhat.
Yeah.
But for the lion, it's a male or female lion. If you think about a male lion versus a female lion, like in the wild, I'm definitely not a dude.
Yeah.
I am the female. I'm the worker, hard worker, loyal, love my kids, protective. But I know Leos that are women who are like the men. And I'm like, I definitely am nothing like that.
Yeah.
Like nothing like that.
Yeah.
So it's so fascinating I mean, my mom was hardcore into astrology. So all growing up, I had my chart done when I was like born.
Oh my God.
I don't remember a lot of it, but I remember she kept saying the reason I was so difficult was because I was Leo, Aries, Aries.
What was she?
She's a Taurus. Yeah.
So she's stubborn.
A little bit. Yeah.
I love Taurus. I mean, that's probably my Scorpio talking is like, I mean, it's my polar opposite. And so they're so grounded. They're so like sensual, like homebody, fixed. And I'm so mutable. You know what I mean? It's like I've died and been reborn like 50 times in 29 years. You know?
My grandmother, who I was closest to, is a Taurus. I loved her. And she was just, what you see is what you get.
I love that about earth signs.
Yep. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was good to relax into with my grandmother. I had so much going on with my mom, you know, so much not great stuff going on with her that I did. She was like a bull in a china shop at all times.
Yeah.
That's what I thought of her Taurus as.
Yeah.
She's just ripping from the front door to the back. She's ripping all that shit out, and whoever gets hurt is your fault.
Yeah.
Because you were in the china shop, is your fault.
Yeah.
But my grandmother was not like that. Like, she would do that if you made her mad. But no, most of the time she was just solid.
That's rad.
Just freaking solid.
Yeah. My paternal grandmother was a Scorpio also.
Yeah.
She was November 4th.
Okay.
And then I don't know what my maternal grandmother was. I don't know when her birthday. I think it was April. So it might be
either Aries or Aries.
Taurus. Yeah, Aries or Taurus, I think. April is Aries and Taurus, I think.
No.
Taurus.
My mom's a Taurus and she's April 21st.
Okay.
So Aries is before that.
Okay.
So yeah, Aries, Taurus. I don't know. Anyway, we digressed. We were talking about porn and somehow got into our sign, which is, you know, the way conversations go.
Well, yeah, because if you're looking for feet pics, I'm looking to make money.
So you can steal Isla's OnlyFans idea.
Yeah, sorry, Isla.
A little eye bait.
Listen, I'll grandfather you in.
Perfect.
I'll be your foot madam. Yeah, because considering, I mean, most dancers and figure skaters, their feet are just like pulverized.
I would imagine.
And mine retained most, like they're my toes are sort of shaped like an ice skating boot. It's like a bonsai tree, but my toes and ice skates. But I was okay, considering that I remember just like putting like numbing cream on my bloody toes and shoving them in a boat.
Can't even imagine.
A boat.
The boot.
I'm so happy to see you. It's been way too long.
I know. I was jokingly saying the only time I see my friends is when I podcast.
Yeah.
So I have no time. So I'm like, okay, 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
And so I'm always concerned, not just with you, with my other friends, that you don't think that I only want to podcast. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those things where I go, I just don't have the time in the day. I would love to go have a leisurely lunch.
Yeah.
But I don't have it.
I relate.
So
I relate. I mean, you're speaking my family's language.
Yeah.
You know?
I bet. Your family is. Boy, does Drew sleep.
He does more than he used to.
I mean, I can't. He's on everything. I'm like Twitter. He's
everywhere.
Instagram. He's here. I'm like, how does he sleep?
And he works way less than he used to, which is insane to say.
Yeah, that I can't believe it. I don't really believe it.
Like, he sleeps more. They're down by 9 most nights.
Oh yeah,
they're
early to bed.
They're past 60 now.
I can't believe that.
I know. They like, you know, it's interesting because I think, you know, my parents are almost senior citizens, which they would hate for me to say out loud.
Well, at 55, you get the senior discount.
Do you?
Yes, at 55. Yes.
I can't wait.
I'm
ready.
52. I'm not quite there.
I feel like I've been 29 for 49 years. Like, this has been the longest year of my life. Like really,
For 49 years.
literally the last year of my 20s is just it's dragging on so long.
Why do you think that is?
Because I've been sober for all of it, most of it.
How are you feeling about that?
I'm good. I'm a little over 10 months, which is insane. Thank you.
Congrats.
But it's so weird because it's like, I could go out at any moment. You know what I mean? And I don't want to. Like, I love being sober. I love who I am sober. And like, I understand why I smoked so much weed and why I drank the way I did. And I don't want to go there again because I don't have to. I don't have to pick up or use.
But what's the but?
Life is challenging. I've had like a rough couple of weeks for just like ordinary reasons. Like, was it last week? Last week? No, it must have been 2 weeks ago. I went to New York. I was able to go to my mentor's husband's 90th birthday party, which like go to a 90th birthday party is amazing. And then I did a reading in New York with a couple of writing peers of mine from grad school. And when I landed at LAX, I realized my car key was back in New York City. And I spent 3 days waiting for AAA to help me in Inglewood. So like Tuesday night, 11:59, I'm like, okay, I'm in Inglewood and I don't have a ride. Like I'm going to Uber home. Next day, my mom drives me back to the parking lot. We sit there for 6 hours.
Oh my God.
No one comes. They're like, Miss Pinsky, someone's going to come Thursday at 1:30. We promise. And I was like, I'm getting haughty. I'm like, can you guarantee someone's going to be there? Like, this is my second day in a row, and I get there and no one's there at 1:30. I get a call when I'm taking a leak at the Starbucks. And it's like, it's unclear like who was calling me. And then I call him back and I was like, hey, are you supposed to be helping me? He was like, yeah, we came, but we have a flatbed and it won't fit in the parking lot.
What?
So then I have to call AAA again. And basically the guy who was like, I was like, this is my third day here. Like, I just need to get my car out of the parking lot. Like, and every time I call AAA, they're like, thank you so much for being a member for 10 years, And I'm like, this is actually the first time I'm ever calling AAA. And I'm like, well, it doesn't matter how long I've been a member because I can't get anyone to come help me.
Right.
And so the flatbed driver was like, whoa, like that is not okay. And he's like, listen, I want to help you, but like, he's like, you have to get hysterical. And I was like, I don't want to be a Karen. Like, I'm trying to I'm trying to be a sober woman of dignity and grace, like there are people who have car troubles all the time. There are people who don't even have cars, like it's ordinary misery, like I'm not getting special treatment and that's probably a good thing. But he was like, you literally have to call and say that you need to speak to the supervisor and that you're in danger or else they're not going to help you.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, like, it's like, my impulse is to do that. But also at the same time, it's like, you know what, like this is happening on God's time,
Yeah.
And so they're like, hello, AAA. I'm like, I need to speak to your supervisor. I'm in danger, And finally they're like, okay, a tow truck's coming. A tow truck comes in 14 minutes.
Oh my God, you're kidding.
Yeah. Then he's like, hey, the ceilings are too low. I can't get in.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like, are you kidding? And so the only spot I could park in, because it was the last spot when I, dropped my car off, was on the roof. And so he takes the elevator up 6 floors. He's like, okay, we'll shift your car into neutral and then you'll steer it and I'll push it down. So then we can tow it.
Mm-hmm.
He gets it into neutral and then my steering wheel was locked. And so at that point, I'm just like, I'm on fire, And what's so frustrating is like getting sober isn't just about being physically sober. It's about like moving through the world like a sane person, And here I am dealing with these insane circumstances, trying to be sane, and being sane isn't getting me anywhere, you know?
Right.
And so I call again, I'm like, supervisor, danger. And they're like, is this Miss Pinsky? Like at this point, they know it's me, And so the manager of the parking lot comes up and he knocks on my window. He's like, you're still here? Like, you should just call a locksmith. And do you want a water bottle? And I'm like, why didn't I think to speak to the manager of the parking lot? It's like,
you're probably not the first person who's done this.
Right. Yeah. And so then I call a private locksmith and I'm like, you're going to pay for this. Like, I've been here for 3 days, all this shit. And they're like, okay, yes, Miss Pinsky, like we'll reimburse you, blah, blah, blah. And so $900 later, I had 2 new keys, and like the locksmith texted me. He was like 40 minutes out, 20 minutes out, running late, and it's frustrating when you receive care that you're paying for, people show up and are professional.
Right.
And theoretically, I'm paying AAA for this service.
Yeah.
And no one double checked with me. You know, it was like the tow truck came and then they weren't really communicating. You know, it's just like, I was just a cog in the machine. And I eventually was, and then I had to drive home and then come back 2 days later because I couldn't drive the car home. I had 2 cars there, you know? And,
oh my God.
And luckily, like a sober friend of mine I told her the saga and she's like, I'll drive your car. I was like, I was going to ask, but I was afraid of asking because no one wants to drive to LAX, you know?
Yeah.
But it was 5 days and I lost 2 days of work. And it's just like the realization that in an insane world, sometimes we get pushed to insanity.
Yeah.
And, you know, it made me think of, you know, those sort of YouTube videos of white women having meltdowns in Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
And I am by no means condoning that abusive, abrasive, horrible, unjustified behavior.
No, yeah.
But I understand that, like, sometimes you can't control when the valve breaks. And that there's just so much insanity and often appropriate behavior is not rewarded or even recognized, right?
Yeah.
And in order to get through an automated system, in order to get through to anyone through a bureaucratic corporation, you have to lose your mind.
Yeah.
You have to be abrasive. You have to be a Karen. And that is like the opposite of what I'm trying to be all the time.
Right.
And it really kind of fucked with my head because not only was it physically, emotionally, and spiritually draining, but also it's counterintuitive to all the work I've been doing.
Right.
And so it's kind of like, well, why am I doing all this work to be a sober woman of dignity and grace when doing that actually keeps me stuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's kind of been what I've been sorting through lately, where it's like,
so how does that relate to your sobriety? Like, do you go, I need a release, I need a relief, I need a break, or does none of that occur to you?
At this point in my sobriety, it's more that my emotional sobriety is being tested, and that when my emotional sobriety is being tested, then byproduct, my physical sobriety is being tested, right? Because if this had happened 10 months ago and, you know, I would have been stoned in that parking lot.
Right.
Or I would have gone home and gotten stoned. You know, it's like, that's how I would have coped with it. And instead I was left with these feelings. And I think traditionally, historically, I've pointed my anger inward. I'm very good at directing all my feelings at myself. And they say that anger pointed inwards is depression, creates depression. Right.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, the guy saying, you know, you have to get hysterical, it almost gave me license to point it at actually the accurate target. But at that point, the level of anger that I was spewing was so, I mean, I would say warranted at that point, day 3 waiting.
Sounds like it.
But it again, you know, I'm trying not to get to that place.
Right.
And so, you know, when my mom was with me, we went to a West End because I had to use the bathroom. And we walked by a bar and I had a profound dirty martini thought. I was just like, I smelt it. I tasted it. I felt it run through my body.
Ah, interesting.
And my mom and I were staring at our phones. And then she was like, we should go. And later she was like, I didn't think it was a good idea for us to be next to a bar. And I was like, yeah, you were right. And then we had to pay $24 for 10 minutes at the West End,
of course.
Naturally.
Because you're at the airport.
Yeah. So it's when I compromise my emotional sobriety, those thoughts come in, you know, and when I'm working my program, when I'm going to meetings, when I'm, you know, tending to my emotional and spiritual well-beings, I don't have those thoughts.
Right.
And so it's just kind of, it's weird getting to a place of prioritizing not endangering my emotional sobriety because that will lead to using.
Right.
Like I'm not impervious. And I guess that's kind of what scares me.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
I could go out at any moment. And that terrifies me.
Well, you're never truly impervious. But as the years go by, I would imagine you get more and more so.
For sure.
You get some coping skills under your belt. Because I watch my husband. My husband's a complicated relationship with alcohol. It's complicated. I've actually talked to your dad about this a lot. He doesn't present as an addict, but if you like when you dive really deep into why he drinks and how he drinks, but on paper he definitely looks like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
He drinks because he needs excitement, not necessarily to cope, right? And so he feels like he has the same trigger with food, with cigars, with working out. He just has this kind of impulsive, like he doesn't want one slice of pizza. He wants the whole pizza, and then he'll eat what he wants from that pizza.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? For everything in life, he wants he wants every option possible.
Yeah.
And then he'll take what he wants. And if you say you can't have it, he's going to eat the whole pizza.
Yeah.
He's like that. But he can stop drinking anytime he wants for long periods of time and doesn't seem to have very many adverse emotional effects until this year. And I think this year with Sober October, he's really struggled with coping.
Interesting.
And I don't think he understood his relationship with alcohol where coping was concerned, because he would use other things to cope. But for some reason, it's not working this year like it has in the past. So the coping piece, he and I've talked about this a lot. You know, your dopamine drops, and then for me, a regular human that's not addicted to anything.
Yeah.
I'm not even addicted to freaking chocolate.
God bless
nothing.
you.
I'm just like,
what's that like?
I'm dead inside. That's what Bert says. You're just dead inside. I'm dead inside.
She's
I don't know.
Army.
I think I know that I did have a problem with alcohol when I was younger.
Yeah.
But therapy.
That was very trauma based.
It was all trauma based.
Yeah.
So once I dealt with trauma, I was able
You
to
were released.
And my whole childhood was about coping.
Yeah.
So I got some real strong coping skills from the trauma.
Yeah.
So then once I figured out how to kind of work through a lot of that trauma, the coping skills are still here.
Yeah.
So I don't need to have a drink. I have a drink when I want to because I want to. And it's like maybe 2 days a month.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bloated. I'm going to feel like shit. Why? I don't need the calories. I'd much rather have a 45 calorie Olipop and enjoy myself. It's so stupid. I'm such a dork that way. But my dopamine kind of regulates itself all the time. I have spikes where I do something really exciting, really fun, and then it goes down, and then it comes right to normal.
Yeah.
But I don't think Bert's does that. His stays so high all the time because he's on stage. He's doing this.
Yeah.
He's running the steps at the stadium. He's, doing all these crazy things that when the dopamine drops, it's in the fucking basement.
Yeah.
And he can't get it back up.
Yeah.
And I think it used to come back a little easier.
Yeah.
But as we age, all things change.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him this year, and my heart breaks for him because he's really feeling empty during this time. And I was like, what? Hey, that's not him. He's always been able to access his joy, no matter drinking or not.
Yeah.
It's never affected his ability to access joy and fun and play. And listen, he's still joyful and is having fun and is playing, but it's different.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the difference is.
So I had an Artist Way student once say, you don't want to be at the 1, you don't want to be in the pits, and you don't want to be at the 10, you don't want to be like manic. You want to live in the 4, 5, 6.
Yeah.
Right. And I literally have 4, 5, 6 tattooed on my hand because that is the sweet spot. That's where real life is. And that's where sobriety is. And I relate a lot to, I was thinking about Isla's, the single cutlet. What does she have? The
hot singlet.
Hot singlet. Yeah.
The single cutlet is lunch.
I must be hungry. But I was like thinking about sort of, that sounds like Isla.
Bert.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you think Bert doesn't have a hot singlet?
Yeah. He's for sure has a hot
from
singlet.
head down.
Yeah.
He's hot everywhere. Yes.
He's a Scorpio, but he's fire within.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I relate to that a lot because I've been at 1 to 3 for like a month.
You have?
Kind of, yeah. It's just been like thing after thing after thing. And, when you're in the 1 to 3, it's kind of hard to sort of pull yourself out of it. And I think because I'm in the recovery rooms and I work a solid program, I have smart feet. And so I'm now at like a 4 or 5, but it's hard. It's hard because especially like action begets feeling, right? Like you have to take action to feel differently.
That's right.
And when you're in that sort of dismal, she's got an MFA. The dismal place, it's hard to remember that you can take action and that it isn't forever.
Right.
But So someone recently in a meeting was talking about, she had long-term sobriety, and she was talking to her sponsor who had she had 30 years, her sponsor had 60 years.
Wow.
And she was talking about how with people who have 30, 60 years, sometimes they go out, sometimes they're like, you know what, I'm going to drink. And they do. And she was asking her sponsor, she was like, why do you think they go out? And the sponsor replied without skipping a beat, they accepted the things that they could change.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really where I'm at right now, where I'm trying to differentiate the things that I can change and the things that I can't change.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to accept versus what do I not have to
Mm-hmm.
accept, right?
Yep.
Sometimes I have to accept dealing with automation. That's something I'm gonna have to deal with for the rest of my life. And you know what? Maybe that's a time that I allow myself to get a little hysterical, but also at the same time, I also accept that I can't move through the world like that and expect people to want to be around me or to impact people positively,
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so I think, living in the 4, 5, 6 is understanding that we do have choices.
Mm-hmm.
But also I relate a lot to sort of when you're living in the 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, even if you're at a 4, it feels like a -4.
Completely. That's right. Yeah, that's something I've been saying to him a lot. He doesn't ever want to just watch TV.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, most of America spends every day watching TV. I'm asking for one. Let's just watch a movie at home. It doesn't have to be, some tentpole event every night.
Well, he's had he's going, man.
Yes, he is. He is. And that's wonderful. It's amazing. And we have this motto, make hay while the sun shines.
Yeah.
Sun's shining all over him. He should make hay. But that you may be right. A 4 may feel like a -8 when it's really just a 4 because he's used to being.
He's used to being at 47, And
yeah, he is. He is.
It's hard.
It is hard. It's hard. It's hard. The struggle I've always had as a parent is I'm an excellent coper. I'm a great problem solver. I read people really well.
Yeah. Well, you've had to.
And it's from my trauma.
Yeah.
So I learned from a traumatic way and then worked myself out of that to be a healthy person.
Yeah.
How do you teach that to your kids without trauma?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't want to beat my kid and then go, see, you've learned how to cope. Yeah. I'm not ever going to do that. But then I've always been concerned about not teaching them the same things I know, but teaching them coping skills and problem solving and how to fight through something. Because my early 20s were about fighting through stuff.
Yeah.
And when you fight through something, you own yourself in a very different way than if you just, kind of breeze through life. Now, maybe that's just my perspective because I've never breezed through life.
No, me neither.
But I think my kids have pretty much breezed through it. And so I wonder in different ways about each child, how they're going to manage certain things in life,
Yeah. It's interesting because in so many ways I did breeze through life my first 18 years, but also I had so many maladaptive coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel safe to express emotion in my family. So I threw them up, and it's it's no mistake that, when you're vomiting, your mouth is in the same position as screaming, and I'm having a lot more empathy for the girl who was just coping, but doing so with really faulty tools.
Yeah.
And so I've been thinking a lot about, how temporary everything is.
Mm-hmm.
And that when you're young, everything feels like it's going to be forever.
That's so true.
And I remember in my early 20s, once I stopped vomiting, the anger started spewing out of me. And of course I was drinking like a maniac. And so that, was gasoline on the fire. But I'm kind of coming to terms with the fact that my parents and my brothers and everybody around me was tiptoeing around my anger, that they didn't know what was going on and how to handle it.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt so justified in that anger. And I was like, this is just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be angry forever. you know?
Buckle your seatbelt,
Yeah.
Pinskies.
Well,
Here we go.
Exactly. Because I couldn't see existence without it because it was repressed anger. And it was in some ways justified. But again, it's like that idea of when the valve breaks, you know, like I was so angry. You know, I'd been turning that anger inward rather than spewing it outward. And then when I spewed it outward, it was hot lava. It was, you know, it was toxic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I just like sort of the temporary nature of emotion and the temporary nature of everything.
Of everything. I know that's one wisdom I wish I could give my kids, but then if you give that to them, they don't get the opportunity to learn. You know,
they will learn
go,
it.
This too shall pass.
Well, but they have to be alive long enough for that to happen.
They do.
You know?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That's just one of the beautiful things about being able to be alive for a while is that you see things change.
Yes.
I have you ever read Octavia Butler's Parable of the Sower?
No.
Dude. Octavia Butler was right, and she tried to tell us 30 years ago what is happening now. Because so it's basically a novel about this 15, 16-year-old girl living in this cul-de-sac with walls around it in Southern California. And it is like cars don't exist anymore. No one uses fossil fuels. People are just like sort of like described in the book as like druggies, addicts, pyromaniacs, you know, murderers.
Wow.
Like, and so she is kind of in this community that is like maybe barely even middle class, barely, but there's people trying to break in all the time, basically. And so she, the whole novel is sort of like her journal entries through this period of time, and the year is like 2026. And it feels a lot like LA right now, you know? And so eventually what ends up happening, I don't want to ruin it, but essentially like things unfold and she's forced to move forward, and she's, you know, pushed out of her home, and her entire family is decimated, you know, and she throughout this is sort of writing her own Bible. Her father was a preacher, and, you know, she was fortunate enough to have, you know, learn how to read and write and learn how to like grow food and things like that, which in this conception of California barely exists.
Wow.
And so she's all along writing this sort of Bible called Earthseed. And so the sort of penultimate quote in that book is, all that you touch, you change. All that you change changes you. The only truth is change. God is change. And, you know, I think that was part of what was keeping me like hyperactivated while I was reading. It's a brilliant book, and it's now one of my favorites, but also, you know, I was reading this during the AAA fiasco. And, you know, obviously being able to pay for AAA and have a car and all these things is a privileged experience, but also kind of nods to this insanity that is going on all the time. And once you're able to accept that, like, literally God is change, that the only true force in life is change, it kind of makes horrible things tolerable.
That's very wise. Yes. Change is the fun roller coaster ride if you allow it to be. If you allow it, because roller coasters are up and down and upside down and all crazy. And at the end, you get off the ride and go, that was amazing. And there's part of it that sucks or stinks or crooks your neck or hurts your back. And then you go right back and you get right back on that roller coaster again. So there's something about our psyche that needs the up and down.
Yeah.
That can't just live in the 4, 5, 6s. We can't.
Yeah.
I don't think it's healthy to be there
all the time.
All the time.
Well, nor is it possible.
But yeah, change. I figured out in my 20s that change is where the wisdom comes from. Change is where that's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah.
That's where all your work starts paying off. Even if it's negative change, I don't ever really look at change as negative because it's an opportunity to grow.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say, at 52, I'm starting to go through menopause. And this change I'm not enjoying yet. I'm trying to find the gift in it.
Yeah.
I have been really looking, like weight gain, hot flashes, night sweats, completely sleepless.
Yeah.
My body looks totally different. Like, I don't even recognize myself half the time. I'm moody. I'm having like I'm dipping into a little bit of depression, which I have never been depressed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up for any of this change. So, but I know that this is normal. It's natural. It's supposed to be happening. It happens to every single woman in some degree.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that part of it. But I keep being curious about what the change leads to. Like, what's the positive? Because I'm such a positive person.
Yeah.
What's the positive in this process? Is it that we get to let go? That I get to just surrender all my expectations? My top closet rod fell off the wall.
Oh man.
Whole rod fell off the wall
Oh,
because whatever ninny installed it, just put it in the sheetrock. No anchor, not on a stud. Whole thing. I can't believe it stayed up this long. Fell off the wall. And I was like, fuck. So I fixed it. I put all my clothes in the bathtub and just left it for like a week. I was like, I'm not dealing with this. I don't have time. I am mad. I hate you. I hate everybody. And you can all go fuck yourselves. I'm not dealing with it.
Yeah.
And then this weekend I was like, okay, I got to deal with it. So I put the rod back up and I went, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go through this closet and I'm taking everything out that is not
sparking joy.
Leanne in menopause. And I'm going to make everything in here congruent with who I am today. So I don't look at this shirt that I last wore when I was 35, thinking I'll get back in that shirt someday. Well, that's bullshit. Now I'm fantasizing about something that I've already done.
Yeah.
So why would I stay in the past? Now I can clean all this out and bring in new stuff that's new me.
Yes.
And so, no, my body doesn't look the same, but I shouldn't be wearing the clothes I was wearing in my 30s because I'm a 52-year-old woman.
Yeah.
So it was very cathartic and it made me feel a lot better to just go, accept that I'm here. My body's not finished changing.
Yeah.
I'm in the middle of menopause. So maybe a month, maybe 2 years. I don't know. Till everything settles down. But I'm tired of looking at what I lost.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm successful, I have great kids, I have wonderful friends. And what's happening to me happens to everyone on this planet.
Yeah.
So just accept it and throw the shit out.
I love that so much. I mean, so much of that reminds me of my eating disorder recovery.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Because, you know, I came into eating disorder recovery in like 2012. And that's like when body positivity first existed.
Mm-hmm.
And really what I was practicing was body neutrality, but we didn't have that language.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
what does that mean? Body neutrality.
So if I had a negative thought about my body, I would just kind of like very Buddhist, like let it go and kind of remain neutral, right? Look in the mirror and not make comments.
Got it.
And
okay.
And for me, I think body neutrality made space for body positivity, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started recovery, my body was changing, you know?
Of course it was.
Of course, because I was eating, you know? And I think so many people relate to the idea of keeping that pair of jeans and wanting to fit into that pair of jeans and that's your goal pants or whatever. And so the fact that that was your impulse is so healthy and so counter to what we're told all the time, which is that we're supposed to have something that we're aspiring to rather than accepting ourselves where we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I first started eating disorder recovery, I had to get rid of clothes. And then once I got rid of clothes, I made space for new clothes.
Right.
And I think there's something really beautiful about honoring who you were by moving past that person.
Yeah, that's a great statement.
Because
by saying thank you.
Yes.
And I'm going to move to the next place.
That person got you to where you are now.
Absolutely, yeah.
And, you know, in recovery, we have the AAA, awareness, acceptance, action, right? You were aware, literally the rod fell. You were aware there was a problem. Acceptance, you know what? Maybe the clothes were too much. You know, maybe this is a literal metaphor for what I'm going through right now. And action, getting rid of things and making space for what is.
Yes. Same thing with the menopause.
Yeah.
Awareness. Hey, something's different.
Yeah.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
What was the second one?
Acceptance.
Acceptance. I'm a little bit still working on that.
Well, it's hard.
And then I did take action in one area where I went, I'm getting rid of everything that is not a menopausal woman's wardrobe.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that I'm like dressing like dowdy.
No.
It's like what I'm wearing now.
Look at you. You're
I'm
adorable.
totally fine.
Yeah.
But I would have worn this in my 30s. But there's definitely a lot in my wardrobe that I should never wear because I am 52 and you just hold on to it because it was my favorite, or I wore it to this special thing.
Yeah.
Or I looked so good in it back then. And you go, oh, it's never going to be there. Let's let it go.
I mean, Marie Kondo talks about like getting rid of things that don't spark joy and that you can have nostalgia items. But also at the same time, I think we have to ask ourselves, is keeping this doing a disservice for me? Or is this a happy memory that I actually want to hold on to?
Yeah.
And yeah, I also, I think so I have a shirt that says God is a woman that one of my sober friends made for me, and I should wear eventually when I come back here. But I think that there's so much to the experience of being a woman that is so sacred, but also I think because our culture fetishizes youth, there's so much that is being eclipsed in the favor of fresh, new, whatever. And I'm thankful to be able to hear you talk about menopause, because that is in my future if I'm alive long enough. You know what I mean?
You will be.
Yeah, God willing. You know?
will be.
And I'm literally 29 for 2. I'm not even 30. Like I feel both so young and so old at the same time.
Well, you're a very old soul and you've lived a lot of life in your 29 years. Really more than a lot.
I came in pretty green. I did a lot of ripening in the last 29 years.
No, you did not come in green.
Did. Oh my God. Yes, I did.
Well, I love how, pivoting back to what you were saying before, I love how you described your process of inward anger and then vomiting hot lava of anger. Because I think when you have I've talked to Bert about this with Georgia a lot. Sometimes Georgia's an asshole. She's 18. It's her job.
That's part of the territory.
Yeah, you're practically paid to be an asshole.
Yeah.
And I have to remind him all the time that this is momentary. This is not personal.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with you. This has to do with someone who's moved to a new city, has 2 roommates that are not her favorite, is doing great and is thriving in her autonomy.
Yeah.
So you have to allow some of the shittiness because we are safe, right?
Yeah.
We are the place that she can do that. She can't do that with her roommates.
Yeah.
She can't do it with her professors. She can't do it with her peers. She just met these people.
Yeah.
She can only do it here. So if someone has a child who is doing what you described, just spewing anger that no one understands, I would say, for me with Georgia, I don't ask her questions first. I ask myself questions about her first. What's happening for her? Why is she behaving this way? What has changed in her life to make her off? And if I can't find answers to this, then I start asking her.
Yeah.
Because when you ask the person that's super worked up, you're not going to get what you need.
No, you're going to get a horrible answer.
You're going to get either a lie, or you're going to get fire hosed, or you're going to get gaslit, or you're going to get blown out of the water. It's not going to be helpful.
No.
But if you can, at least for me with Georgia, if I go, okay, I think it's about her roommates, I'm just going to say, how are the roommates going?
Yeah.
Not, why are you so angry?
Right.
Or, I feel that you are going through. She don't want to hear that shit.
No.
But if you can figure out the answer to your own question and then ask it, they'll tell you everything.
Well, I think too, I mean, first of all,
Most of the time,
my
anyway.
entire college career, I was such an asshole, like.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
I was an asshole too in college.
But also, when I left home for school, it was the first time I had to question who I was. That everything I thought to be true about myself was actually not true.
Yeah.
I went to college bulimic and didn't know it. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I hadn't even been introduced to feminism until I went to college.
Wow.
So many things that are so foundational to who I am now, I was just realizing.
Right.
And so, there's so much power in being removed from your original context, but also that comes with a lot of feelings. And if you're not used to feeling a lot of feelings, they are misdirected, ugly, unmanageable, and again, God is change, right? And that's for those of us privileged enough to have stability through the first 18 years of our lives, that is the first real change we are handling.
Yeah, really.
And even though God is change, we don't recognize God because God has been stability. God has been, lovely, supportive, container, sterile container. And all of a sudden we're being dumped out onto the floor. And it's like, actually, everything you thought to be true about yourself is not true.
Yeah.
And
question everything.
I wasn't an ice skater for the first time in my life.
That's crazy,
And I feel so much sympathy for that girl because that's what an 18-year-old is. I don't care if they can vote. That is a child.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, totally.
And, I'm really fortunate, and I feel a lot of great gratitude that I didn't start drinking until I was 18 because your brain stops developing as soon as you start using.
Yeah.
And at least I got to 18, and then I started smoking weed at 23, but your frontal lobe doesn't close until you're 25.
Wow.
And so there's all these kids who are smoking at 13, 14, 15. They're stuck there.
Yeah.
And so your frontal lobe is how you process emotions. If you have a gaping hole in your frontal lobe because you've been smoking weed every day, yeah, your emotions are going to come out weird. You're not going to be able to process things all that well.
That's so fascinating.
And and that's what's been so terrifying recently is, if you smoke more than twice a week, you are considered a chronic user.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Twice a week.
That's actually not that much.
Right. I was a chronic user from the start. I was more than a chronic user.
Wow.
And that's more than alcohol. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Alcohol, you can have 4 to 6 drinks a week and be fine.
No idea.
I think.
If you say so.
I was once an alcoholic, so my numbers may be off. I'm still an alcoholic, so my numbers are definitely off. But it's just, that's just kind of a tangent. But I think, there are so many factors in why someone's being an asshole.
Well, I think nowadays, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I think nowadays it is harder, not just for young people, but for all of us to say, why did they do that? Instead of, why did you do that to me? Do you know what I mean? Because that's a very different question. Why did you do that to me is someone who feels personally attacked. And perhaps you were.
Yeah.
Perhaps the answer is that you did this to me because you're personally attacking me. But most of the time, in almost every conflict, your grocery store checkout woman is not doing that to you.
No.
That woman may have terrible things going on in her life and is having a horrible day.
Yeah.
And can you just allow her to have that? Sorry, I watch people moving through the world, taking things personally that don't need to be taken personally.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, you have to take it personally and get hysterical to get action, is teaching bad things to everybody. But really what should be happening is that you go, what's going on that makes this difficult?
Yeah.
What is making this difficult? Am I? Or is it something that has nothing to do with me?
Yeah.
Because most of the time it has nothing to do with you.
Well, I think allow someone the dignity of their own experience.
Exactly.
But also at the same time, being able to differentiate when you provoked something or if you just happen to be standing there.
Exactly.
That's a really important lesson.
It's a big one. For whatever reason, I was born like this. My mother, I was the target of my mother's anger, aggression, and I knew when it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And I would go, no, this one's not me. You go ahead. You can say you're a bad kid. You're fat. You're ugly. You're stupid.
Yeah.
But this has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
And then, obviously I got in trouble as a kid and I did have bad behavior from time to time. And that was me.
But that's normal.
That's normal. But that ability for all humans to be able to differentiate, I think is a connection to God, is that you are saying, I believe in the goodness of people,
Yeah.
right? And in goodness of myself, and that I'm showing up here with goodness. And if
Yeah.
I've done something that's offended you, I don't want to do that. But if you're just having a bad day and just shitting all over the place, I'm not going to take that personally.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have some compassion.
Well,
for that.
that's the word that was popping into my head, right?
Like compassion.
Yeah. I mean, that's what compassion is, right? And I mean, I keep coming back to TCB over and over and over again, not only because I love Elvis and I've been praying to Elvis since I was 8 years old, but this framework of trust, compassion, and boundaries. And when you can trust the fact that like, oh, this isn't about me, and assert a boundary around yourself and be like, oh, I don't have to let this in. You can offer someone compassion. And I think I probably talked about it before, but the Book of Joy, the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And I'm just I need to re-listen to the audiobook because they read it themselves. And so you're hearing these men have conversations about all of this, right?
It's amazing.
And the Dalai Lama, his leading thing is compassion, you know, and he'll have a feeling and then, you know, he'll go, wow, well, I imagine how that goat farmer whose goat just died feels, you know, and how like, I think coming out of COVID, we're all operating at a loneliness deficit.
For sure.
And even just watching people go off for Halloween, which I love to see, you know, that everybody's had 2-3 years to ruminate on what they'd be for Halloween.
Yeah, right.
And everyone's really earnestly going out and having fun, which is great. But again, it's like, we're not alone. And even when we feel singular in our experience, we have to remember that the human experience is what taps us into humanity. That something that feels singular is actually, just because you yourself are alone feeling it actually is proof that someone else has probably felt it.
Right. That's very true. Yes.
Because I think so often it's like, no one's ever felt like me before. And it's like, right now, maybe you're in this body, in this iteration. Yeah, you are the only one experiencing it, but also you are hooked into humanity that, you know, everyone else has felt alone before.
Yes.
And that, you know, that's kind of, I don't know. I think, you know, what got me writing in the first place is like, oh, people aren't talking about this. Right.
Right.
So I started writing about my eating disorder, and then I was talking about weight stigma and body positivity. And now I'm doing sobriety. And, you know, I think that has kept me from ever feeling from that point forward alone, because I write just to identify what I'm feeling and what I'm going through. But, you know, through sharing my writing, I realized that other people who aren't writers, which I think everyone's a writer, but they just aren't active in the discipline. You know, my job is to put into words these feelings that I feel so that other people can read it and understand themselves better.
Exactly. That's what the human experience is entirely, is that you live your best life so other people are inspired to live their best life. And sometimes your best life has some hard knocks in it. And those hard knocks inform who you are. And if someone else says, oh, she got through these hard knocks and look what she's doing now, then they can do it too.
Yeah.
It's community. We're all a community.
Is so important. I mean, I think we're so isolated, and I think God is in connection. God is in this conversation.
Completely.
God is in our capacity to feel compassion for someone else.
Yep.
And, you know, we need people as mirrors, right? Because at the same time as like your 18-year-old being an asshole to you, like, yeah, you can offer compassion, but also at a certain point when it goes too far, it's like, whoa, man.
Yes. I just had that conversation too.
Yeah.
She was verbally rolling her eyes at me on a phone call the other day. I asked her to do something. I'd been asking her for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I texted her and said, it will happen today or I'm cutting off your credit cards. Like, I'm done. I've been asking you this for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
She calls me and is so annoyed.
Yeah.
When I'm verbally eye rolling. Like, you can't see her, but she's going,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I went, the verbal eye rolling will stop now. I am not the asshole in this scenario.
Yeah.
I've been asking for 2 weeks. I've been patient. I've texted you. I've left it up to you and you haven't done it.
Yeah.
So you left me no choice. So I know that you're in front of your friends. So stop the bullshit now and just talk to me.
Boundary.
And then she went, sorry, Mom. And she was totally fine. And we got done in like, it was all of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What I needed her to do was fucking 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Well, but that's the thing is like, you know, you can offer someone compassion, you can offer them the dignity of their own experience, but when they traverse a boundary, you got to shut it down.
You do,
because people need mirrors, and that's the problem, is that all these people are isolating, and they you know, they're getting stoned and they're convinced of their own competency, when in fact, like they're having intricate thought, but it actually isn't that nuanced, and then they get defensive when anybody ever offers anything alternative, because well, my own brilliance, I can do this alone. And the fact is that we can't do it alone.
No.
We're not built to do it alone.
No. Hey, Bert writes this whole hour and asks everybody he sees, what do you think? You have any notes?
Yeah.
What do you think? You have any notes? Everybody. Anybody can give him a note, and he'll take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But wants the input, wants it to be nuanced, wants your help, everybody's help.
Yeah.
You could give him notes. Drew could give him notes. You know, anybody. If it's a good note, he'll take it. Yeah. And I really admire that, because I think he's better at that than I am.
Well, there's something good about humility, right? And I think what's been really beautiful about witnessing Bert's journey is that so many people in the larger culture fetishize fame, and they want fame. And what scares me about that is that it's non-dimensional. It's without purpose. And I think that people who are famous by product of their craft or pursuing their purpose is so beautiful to witness, because at the ground floor, Bert is practicing his craft.
Yes, that's very true.
And
fame is a pain in the ass.
It's awful. It sucks. I'm sorry, but like bearing witness to it, any sort of proximity that I've had to it, it is deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really makes simple things difficult.
Yes. And also, I think there is something very strange about people feeling like they have ownership over you.
There is.
Because they know facts about you, or they recognize your face, when in fact, they don't know you.
Right.
And I think the internet is amplifying that.
Of course,
and it's uncomfortable. And I think, you know, back to this community element, you know, I try to build community virtually. I try to do these workshops. I'm trying to build, you know, you're only as strong as your community. And I think one of the positive aspects of COVID is that Zoom is now integrated into our lives. And there's nothing like being in person.
Sure.
This is so much better than virtual.
Well, yeah.
But there is something really fantastic about being able to connect with people all over the globe. And virtual is convenient.
Yes.
You know?
And it does make global relationships really accessible. You could pick up a phone, but it's not the same as seeing someone's face and really talking face to face, even if it's over Zoom.
Well, energetically, like our bodies and brains are doing things that we don't even realize.
Yeah, totally.
You know? But yeah, I mean, I think this, whenever anybody's like, I want to be famous, I'm like, you have a personality disorder. Like,
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
The fame part, my kids hate it.
Yes.
They hate it so
well, right.
much.
Because anyone who is non-consensually part of the experience recognizes, like, you know, there's something really deeply uncomfortable about walking around in public with the chosen fame person and people asking you for pictures with that person. And it's like, you are the hired help. You don't exist. It's like, oh, we're out to dinner with our family. Oh, great. There's going to be 5 people that, you know, it's just like, and again, like, you know, if you're living in a small town and everybody knows each other, great. But there's something different about absolute complete strangers treating, like, anytime anyone is putting someone else on a pedestal, that is a problematic relationship. And I think that this idea of celebrity being greater than, it's like the James Corden stuff where he was being an absolute asshole to the Balthazar waiter or whatever. There's like a whole thing where James Corden was just being vitriolic to a Balthazar waiter, and he got banned, and then he was apologetic, but it excuses behavior like that, right? So
it does.
Again, like, the insanity of the world facilitates behavior like that. And so, yeah, I obviously have a lot of thoughts about it.
Well, you lived through it.
Yeah. I'm still living through it.
And sure.
Well, what's super weird too is that I'm starting to experience it for my own work.
Sure.
You know, and it's such a difficult thing, because if you live out loud, people connect to that.
Yeah.
But again, the boundary. The boundary.
The boundary is difficult with our kids. Bert and I have a little bit of a different philosophy regarding ourselves. Obviously, I'm only famous because Bert's famous. But I'm not really famous. I'm just, you know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
a weird thing to say. That sounds really gross.
Yeah. Well, you have
but
exposure.
people
or you have
know who I
proximity to a
am.
platform. That's how I feel about my dad. Is like,
Yes.
I have proximity to a platform.
That's right.
And
That's
so
a great
in
way
the
of putting it.
context
Yeah.
of that platform,
Yeah.
I am known.
Yeah. I'm known to because of proximity. That's a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
But Bert and I both look at it as gratitude. You know, they pay these people who listen to his stand up or his podcast or mine help us have this beautiful life. So anytime anyone approaches Bert, he's always happy to take a picture and happy to chat for a minute. And it's because he approaches that interaction with just complete gratitude.
Yeah.
But our kids don't like it. And it's and I feel the same way as Bert. I think the only thing you can say is thank you and be gracious.
Yeah.
But Bert and I chose this path.
Yeah.
And our kids didn't.
Yeah.
Our kids just kind of were born into this path. We were already on this path. And that's been hard to manage as they've gotten older. I mean, Bert was not famous when they were young.
Yeah.
We were just regular like everybody else,
But
you know?
thank God. You know what I mean?
Thank God is right.
Yeah.
But the shift has happened and it's really hard for both of them. They don't enjoy it. And, you know, we just went to Parents Weekend to see Georgia and we took her to dinner every night and we did nothing on campus. We did none of the parent activities. We did go to the ball game. But that's what we felt was in her comfort level.
Yeah.
Like her college experience should be hers.
Yeah.
It should not be ours. It's hers.
Yeah.
So we were very conscientious. And even still at dinner, Bert was getting recognized and people were asking for pictures. And Georgia just goes from like 90 to nothing. She's so annoyed.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've been trying to talk to her. Bert hasn't. I've been trying to talk to her about this is kind of our new normal.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? We are doing the best we can. We really are.
You got to give her my phone number because this is exactly the time that the shift happened for me too.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I remember going to college and I wanted to show my dad the campus, you know? I was so proud of where I was. And I remember we were walking by the freshman dorm on Columbia's campus and someone was like, yo, is that Dr. Drew?
Yeah.
You know, someone who was in my anthropology class who I saw every single day and they didn't even see me.
Right.
And it's like, wow, this is the new reality. And thank God bless you for talking to her about it because I feel like there was no sort of recognition or self-awareness around what was happening for us.
Oh, Bert's very, very aware. Like when we were at her school, he was like, this may be the last time I come to her school because it makes her so uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and I went, we're not going to do that. You know, you may not be able to walk around the campus with her. Okay. But we can still come here and take her to dinner.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to go to dinner anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
And so are you never going out to dinner with her again?
Yeah.
No. And you know what's so funny? People would go, wow, man, what are you doing here?
Oh my God.
Like no conception that he was in that city for Parent Weekend.
Well,
and I went, well, that's great.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
You can just say, just passing through on my way. You don't have to answer the question directly.
But still, George is sitting there trying to find out who she is. And then here he's coming and it's eclipsing.
I think it's what I'm trying to get Georgia to understand is that we see her and we hear her complaint. And there's some of this that's in our control.
Yeah.
And there's some of this that's not. Are we never going to fly commercial again?
Yeah.
Are we never going to walk through the airport as a family again? Is that what you're asking? Is that we're just completely separated?
That is such a version of reality that is so bonkers. Like these people with like private jets, multiple private jets and all that.
No, but that's not our family.
No,
we're not doing
please
that.
God, no.
We're not doing
please
that.
God, no. Because that is so outlandish and crazy and so detrimental to literal climate. Like... You know, it's
no.
That's a version of reality that I don't think you'll ever submit to.
No,
but that is where people go. That is, and then they don't have mirrors anymore. Their mirrors are other like-minded people, in this different stratosphere.
Yes,
that people want. People want that, right?
Yes. We don't live like that.
No,
we didn't. We stayed in a non-suite hotel room. I mean, we stayed in one room. I mean, we're still pretty, regular people. And so what I'm trying to do with Georgia is to have her hear two things at once, which is I see, I hear, I'm trying to understand. I'm not in your position, but I'm trying very hard to understand what you're feeling.
Yeah.
And this is our reality.
Yeah.
So how do we how do we take care of you within the context of we still have to walk through the airport? How do we take care of you with the context of we're still going to go out to dinner as a family?
Yeah.
And this is going to happen because we can't stop the world from moving. We can't stop
God has changed.
your dad. This is his joy, his life, his passion. And I hear from so many people how much it means to them. So what do we shut it down because you're uncomfortable at dinner?
Yeah.
We can't do that.
Yeah.
But I don't want you to be uncomfortable at dinner.
Change.
We got to figure out how to make it how you can accept some of this and how you can know that we know and that we're conscientious of it, that we're not showing up and doing the tug of war on your campus.
Right.
We are showing
He's
up.
not like waving
No.
campus, like shoving her behind,
No, we're showing up. We're picking you up in front of your dorm. We're not even going in.
Yeah.
And we're going to dinner and we're spending time with you, which is why we're here. And you want to bring some friends? Totally. All your friends know who your dad is. So, okay. And then we take you back to the dorm and we're not out and about.
You got to tell her to call me because
that's our best.
I moved through it. I know how uncomfortable it is. And I also know how it is both you and not you, that it does define you, right? It is
to an extent,
the context that you were raised in.
Yes.
That is your lived experience. And it's uncomfortable. And I think also, already like moving and being 18 and going to college, that is a whole identity shift.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard. And the first year is hard. People don't talk enough about how hard it is.
You know what's funny? I think she was so ready.
Oh,
she was so ready for an identity shift.
Yeah.
I think she was ready to kind of blossom.
Yeah.
She was ripe for the picking.
Oh.
I talked to her last night and I'm like, I feel her energy is so good.
Yeah.
She's so happy. And I'm glad because I know for a lot of people, this is a really hard year.
Yeah.
But so far, thank you, God. So far, I think she was just hungry for this change.
Yeah.
She was ready to be on her own.
Yeah.
She's tired of us telling her you have a curfew.
Yeah.
She was tired of that. I think she wanted her own life for a minute. And no wonder her two parents are the most independent, forward moving people. And so it's no big shock that she went, open the door and walking through it.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well, I think too, part of leaving home is physical separation and then like the emotional separation. Like I feel like when I left for college, so much of it was, I literally went across the country. I got as far away as I could.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of have this image of myself just locked elbows, pushing them away because in order to facilitate that identity shift, in whatever, again, maladaptive coping mechanism, I had to shove, and there's so many friendships that I dropped and so many things that like now I'm at the amends process in my recovery. There are people that I owe amends to, and be like, you were actually a really good friend to me. And I'm sorry. And I was going through a lot. And I just want to say that I would love to refacilitate a relationship, and like that. Yeah. I just have this image of myself just locked elbow, like pushing.
That's such a great image. I think that's probably for most 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like that. Georgia has started some amends process.
Really?
Yes. So interesting. I think AA has all this terminology. I just need the terminology.
I can give you a glossary. I literally have a big book glossary.
I would love it because I go, well, that's exactly what's happening. Yeah. I'm such a label person that way.
Yeah.
Like if you give me a label, I got it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. She had a good friend and they had a falling out and she called them at college and went, I don't know why we had this falling out. And the friend was like, I do. It was about blah, 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 blah.
Wow.
And they were able to, and now they're talking again.
That's beautiful.
And they were great friends for a long time. And I thought, what a cool, wise couple of kids that is to be able to do that.
That's beautiful.
Healthy. But yeah, Georgia did that. I was very proud of her. I think she started taking accounting, of what the last
what matters.
Few years are, but yeah. And what the last few years have been,
Dude.
It's crazy time.
I mean, this year has been the year of the most profound change for me.
Yeah. I'd say, yeah.
And I remember because 27 to 30 is when your Saturn return happens. Which, do you know about Saturn return?
I don't.
So every 27 years, I guess, like Saturn does a rotation, and it sort of facilitates like a life altering change. Like it's like the Tower card in tarot.
Okay.
And I remember leading up to my 29th birthday being like, yeah, I guess my Saturn return came, and it just,
it came and went.
I guess I'm just engaged and blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden it was just like, and, this is my Saturn return year, and really God did for me what I could not do for myself. Like this doesn't, and I think that's kind of what feels strangest in this moment is that I didn't choose sobriety. It just happened. I guess I did choose it, but I think I was presented with a bottom where it was like, either you keep going or you don't, that it just,
but that was a choice.
I guess.
Well, I mean, there is free will.
I heard the call. The call, and I guess I could have continued, but I didn't think I had a choice. The choice felt obvious. Sobriety felt like the only choice I could make.
The choice was undeniable.
Yeah. Well, then I would have to be in crazy amount of denial to want to pursue the path that I was on.
Totally. And undeniability is when most change happens.
Yeah.
We don't want to go through the uncomfortableness of change. Who wants to do that? It's when you hit something that's undeniable.
Yeah.
Where you go, if I keep doing this, I'm the asshole.
Yeah.
And then you have to make the change. That happens with firing an employee.
Yeah.
Breaking up with a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Yeah.
Breaking up with a friend. Weight loss.
Yeah.
Going back to college. Getting your degree. Whatever. It happens in all fronts of your life where you hit some undeniable piece and you look back and go, here's a sign, here's a sign, here's a sign, here's a sign.
That's what's really strange about right now is I'm sort of sliding into the time frame where last year things started going bad.
Oh.
And so I'm having to be like, wow, a year ago I was in New Orleans celebrating Halloween, and this was sort of the last good moment I had before it tanked, and now I can see how things were slowly dipping. But I imagine that coming up to the year, it's going to be pretty intense to sort of remember, because I'm a very nostalgic person, and Facebook frickin' tells me where I was 11 years ago on this day,
Right.
and I should probably stop checking for my mental health. But it's kind of, I am so different from the person I was a year ago. And it's weird to know that and really believe that, that the way I show up in my life is so cataclysmically different than just 10 months ago.
Yeah, right.
And, they say, I heard someone say that your bottom is the farthest. Okay, let me say, your bottom is when you're farthest from who you're meant to become. And, having a panic attack in an Alabama gas station to, responding to sort of the 3-day emotional onslaught of someone in weed-induced psychosis, like even just accepting that weed-induced psychosis is common.
Right.
Like I, for the past 9 months, have been gaslighting myself, being like, that was exceptional. That was just him. And then I read a book called Tell Your Children by Alex Berenstein, and weed-induced psychosis is common. That the THC content in joints in the 60s was like 0.5%. Now it's anywhere from 18 up.
What?
Yeah, and that the medicinal aspect of marijuana is CBD. But in order to get high, often the joints or whatever, edible, whatever you're using, the content of the THC is so high. And also they have to lower the CBD quality because the point is to get high.
Yeah.
And all of this rhetoric used to legalize, it is medicine, it is magical, it's all these things, it's not addictive, is backfiring and not true.
Right.
And so, I think that's kind of what's hard for me. I mean, even just articulating it out loud, it's coming to terms with the fact that I have now witnessed multiple people in weed-induced psychosis. I myself got a misdiagnosis of bipolar because I had a hypomanic episode, but no one was questioning my weed use.
Wow.
And that's common.
Right.
So many people are like, well, I'm bipolar, but I'm also drinking and using.
Right.
And it's like, no, you're just a drug addict and an alcoholic.
Right.
And so yeah, just even having clarity on that, like even talking about it, I'm just like, I feel so daunted because I'm pushing up against a culture where I can be like, I was addicted to weed, and someone will be like, well, weed is medicine and it's not addictive to my face. And I'm like, well, then why couldn't I stop? You know? And I wouldn't believe it unless I had experienced it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's both, you know, there's something really profound about having a moment of clarity
Mm-hmm.
and saying either I continued on the path where I get psychotic, or I start something new and now I'm 10 months out and I am so thankful that I took the leap of faith and I didn't see an option other than to get sober.
You made the choice.
I did.
You
I did.
You made the choice.
But
you've walked the path.
I didn't see another option though.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. But there's always another option. But your option was undeniable.
Well, I did not accept the things that I thought I couldn't change, right? Like I thought I was going to marry this person. I thought I would like weed was medicinal and that it wasn't addictive, you know? And here I was, you know, I couldn't get past 11 a.m. without smoking it.
Right.
And for me, it required a really profound trauma in order to sort of knock it off.
Right.
And I'm lucky. I am so lucky.
You're very, very lucky and wise that you were able to see the path and go.
It scares me because it could have gone so differently. You know what
totally.
I mean? Like I am lucky.
Yeah. And wise.
I try to be.
Yeah, you were wise. You had a moment where you went, hold on. This is not who I want to be. Pivot. Really. That's what you did. You did make that choice. God went A or B. And you went, I think it's got to be B. It's got to be B. And he goes, if you do B, I'll give you everything else. And you did it. So that's everything in life is like that. We just have a hard time sometimes with these big choices, thinking they're so different than what soda do I get out of they're not that different.
Yeah.
Making choices and taking action toward that choice is just a habit.
Yeah.
And so you habitually make the choice to numb, to hide, to escape, to whatever your choices were, to smoke weed and drink, to have sex, to throw up, to whatever it is. Right,
because it's all the same impulse, right? Like starving to vomiting to drinking to fucking to smoking. Yeah. It's all I don't want to feel. You know, it's I don't want to feel. Yeah. I don't want to feel. And now I feel everything.
Yeah.
And
which must be very difficult also. But at the same time, there is no other choice. Even though there is a choice, you can always go back to using. But you know what that's like? You've already done that.
Well, I would never be able to go out there and be guilt-free. I have a head full of program. You know what I mean? Like it wouldn't feel good. I wouldn't be able to escape.
Yeah. It's like me trying to get back in my outfit at 35.
Yes.
Even if I got back in it, I wouldn't look like I did when I was 35.
Well, but it also wouldn't feel right.
It wouldn't.
You know, it's not.
And I've already done it.
Yes.
My favorite saying is, I've been to that rodeo.
Yes.
Can I see a new show, please?
Yes. Well, I always tell people, you know, if they're like, oh, do you want to drink? I'm like, I either say, you don't want me to drink. Or I went fast and hard and now I'm retired. Like, because my using career was 18 to 29. It was only 11 years. Yeah. You know, like I started late and I ended early. Yeah. You know, and that's me. I'm an extremist. You know, I like it. I'm a Bert. I want the whole pizza and the options. Yeah. You know, and I'm so, I guess I just feel thankful that I had my moment of clarity, that I was so desperate that, you know, I could conceive of something different.
And you had the resources to do that.
That's a huge part of it as well, that I'm very fortunate.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, recovery meetings are free.
Recovery meeting. Hey, listen, I hit my wall when I was 20.
Yeah.
And I'd been drinking for 6 years. And at 20, I was almost 21. I went, this might be a problem. Yeah. I may need to just pause. And after that, I checked out books at the library free.
Yeah. Yeah.
I did get a therapist, but I got a therapist through an intake company that charged me on a sliding scale based on what I made for a living.
And that exists a lot. And BetterHelp is a resource as well.
Yes, it exists still today.
Yeah.
I paid $20 a session.
That's gorgeous.
Because that's all I could do.
Yeah.
And if you can't come up with $20, you probably drank $20 worth of shit.
Mm-hmm.
So you replace that with therapy. I got into therapy and I read every book I could get my hand on. And I just said, until you have this under control, you can't do it.
Yeah.
You got to stop. But, you can stop drinking and still be a drunk.
Well, it's
a dry drunk,
It's a
right?
thinking problem.
It's a thinking problem. So I was going, it's not the drinking, it's the why.
Yeah.
Why? Why are you drinking? Why are you unhappy? Why are you waking up in some weird guy's apartment on his couch? Why are you getting a DUI? Why are you crashing your car? Why are you vandalizing things for fun? Why are you getting arrested?
Yeah.
Why are these things happening?
Yeah.
It's not the booze.
Julia Cameron. So the whole Artist Way book is about unblocking creativity. And around chapter 10 is my favorite of the entire book. But she talks about like our blocks and how like there's sex, alcohol, food, money, relationships, there's so many things that we can use as blocks. And she says, often your block is what you defend as your right. So for me, when I was smoking weed, it was what I felt most defensive about that was actually blocking me the most. And so I experience this a lot with stoners where they're just like, it's a lot. I experienced it as a stoner where I couldn't even entertain that it was problematic because I think deep down I knew it was. And it felt easier to try to shut them down than to question what I was doing. And, I would be like, oh, well, I need to write, so I'll get stoned. And then I would like, no, don't get stoned because then you won't be able to write. And then I would spend hours, fighting myself, and then I would get stoned and I wouldn't be able to write, and it's like, that was my primary block.
Right.
And maybe in the beginning it facilitated creative thought, but also, the Huberman Labs, the Dr. Huberman, so he did a podcast, or he's been doing podcasts about the effects of alcohol and the effects of weed. And it's not programming, it's literally like, this is the biological impact of these substances. And something he talked about is how there have been studies about people who use weed for creativity. Does it actually facilitate creativity? And what they found is that it actually doesn't, but the people who use weed tend to be more open, and that creates more creative thought. And so it's kind of like a chicken or the egg. And I think with weed, and most often all substances, is that the first, third, fourth time you do it, you have that magical experience, and then you're chasing it forever.
You're connected to that.
Right. Yeah. And
it's like being able to dance while drunk.
Yes.
Well, guess what?
You can dance sober.
Yeah.
And it's
just
more
freer.
fun. Yeah.
Maybe you're less inhibited, but why can't you choose to be freer and less inhibited when you're sober? I mean,
that's the secret.
I just had a dance party for my birthday.
Aww.
And the next, I saw a friend a couple days later, and he was like, "Wow, you were hammered." And I went, "Nope, I had one drink.
That's
the whole night, and I can throw down. Let's do it. I'm ready to party. I'm here to party.
Yes,
I'm not here to party."
My cousin's wedding this summer, I danced from start to finish, that I was there, and everybody thought I was the drunkest bitch at the party, and I was one of two sober people, and people were getting increasingly drunk. And as they were getting drunk, they were coming up to me being like, "You are so fun," and it's like, people just assume you're drunk when you're living free.
Yes. And there's nothing better than good, clean fun. Well, there's nothing better.
You wake up the next day and you're not hungover. The thought of being hungover, because I never got through drinking without being hungover from the start.
Oh, I never had a hangover.
Oh my God.
It was the worst.
I literally said, I think I'm allergic to alcohol, did 7 shots and vomited. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I was using that language, but I also think I literally had a physical allergy. I never was, and that's what weed felt like a reprieve, because I was like, well, I'm not hungover, but then I'll have relapse dreams. And in the dreams, I remember waking up cloudy, and now I have clarity unless I'm sick. Usually, I hate waking up, but once I get over the sort of emotions involved with coming into consciousness in the morning, I'm clear, and I don't want to compromise that.
No, it's so nice to be sober. I mean, like I said, I am positive I had a problem when I was younger, and you don't get to feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a lie.
Yeah.
Or I felt that way about myself. Everything was about hiding or chasing.
Yeah.
Nothing was just about standing still. It was all hiding or chasing. And that's exhausting.
Oh my God, I'm feeling the hiding and I'm having like a palpable. That's
all it
true.
did is hide or chase. And so how can you have a real relationship? How can you have a real friendship?
You don't.
How can you thrive in what you're studying in school or doing as a job?
Mm-mm.
It's not possible because you're either hiding or chasing. And all of that's lying. None of it's honest.
Yeah.
It's so dishonest to hide or to chase. And the chasing may not be dishonest, but it's desperate. And why? There's just no power in any of that behavior or any of those choices. And you lie to yourself and you think, this is what makes me cool. This is what makes me have a relief from work. This is what makes me. It's not true.
Yeah.
It's really not, because there's no reality to it because you're too busy hiding or chasing, you know?
I was just thinking about how it's a little over a year since I first met you.
Uh-huh.
And how I was hiding in plain sight.
Mm-hmm.
And how, first of all, I'm just so thankful for even having the opportunity to know you.
Wow. I think we were sent to each other for a purpose.
I think so. Well,
I adore you.
I do too. I do too. And I was just thinking about how, my book came out September 2021. I was doing all this promotion. And when I watch myself, there is this like guardedness and performativity, which was my survival mode for so long. And sitting here and talking about eating disorders, it's like, yeah, that is something that is foundational to who I am. And, I've been privileged in that I haven't had traditional eating disorder treatment. And so the way I think about it is non-traditional. And even during that conversation, I was lying to myself because I couldn't even see how deep in shit I was because I was performing functionality, right? And, on that podcast, you said something like, shit makes daisies grow tall. But I think through that conversation, the wheels were starting to turn of like, wow, like whether it's drinking, smoking, vomiting, binging, purging, it is all about the hiding and chasing. And, during that trip, I think I bought $500 worth of edibles at a dispensary to take home, and that was kind of like my final stash. That was the final stash before my December revelation. And, it's kind of intense to think that, I have been very public about my recovery journey.
You have. And I think it's been very helpful for people.
And that's why I did it. But also at the same time, I did this interview with my dad on the live stream and I was like maybe 60 days sober and it's uncomfortable to watch.
Oh, yeah?
Well, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I'm regurgitating things I'm hearing in the rooms, and that's what you do at that point.
Of course.
But
there's value in that too.
Well, I think that there's something really beautiful about having those moments frozen in time so that other people can see that growth and change is possible.
Completely.
Because I am a different person. Because
you feel totally different.
I feel so energetically like I thought I was this person, but drinking and using distorted the sort of the transmission, right? Like this is who I am in my core.
Yeah.
But when I was drinking and using, hiding and chasing, this is not what people were receiving.
No, because you were hiding. And you know what you do, I think, is that when you hide, you like, everything gets really stiff. This is bad maybe, but like all your energy gets really stiff when you're in that place.
It's stuck.
Yeah, maybe that's a better word. But you're like, I don't know why stiff keeps coming back, because you're like, you're a little bit immovable and no one can push you.
It's a mask.
But
right?
You're just going to break.
Yeah.
If you push too hard, you break because you're too tight. Everything's too tight. And you seemed much tighter,
Mhm.
wound tighter when I first met you. And
Yeah.
now you feel very soft and pliable
Yeah.
for yourself, not for me, but for you.
Yeah.
And that's lovely because who wants to be friends with a stick? Nobody. I don't want to sit with a stick all day long. I said, if I can stick up your ass, stick in the mud. I don't want to be friends with a stick.
Yeah.
I want somebody who I can talk to, talks back to me, who you flow with, who you have bad days and good days.
Yeah.
You know, the friend that never needs your help sometimes gets boring.
Yeah.
You know, where sometimes you go, can you hold me up for a minute?
Yeah.
And then I'll hold you up when you need it. And you can't do that to a stick. They stand straight up stiff by themselves. It's just it's so much less interesting.
Yeah.
You were always interesting, but there was a part that was inaccessible.
Right. There was a wall. There was a wall. I was hiding, and it was
inaccessible to you.
Oh yeah. Well, I had to be honest with myself before I could be honest with others. Right. And I think that's, again, coming back to TCB, is like trust, compassion, and boundaries. Right. I didn't trust myself. I didn't have compassion for myself.
Wait, hold on. Why didn't you trust yourself?
Because from a young age, I was told not to trust my hunger. And that's the most base way to trust yourself.
That makes so much sense.
And so my entire life has been a journey to learn how to trust myself.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I want to write an essay about how hunger is our first primal voice, and how
you should,
when we ignore it, we're actually ignoring our own spoken voice.
Right.
That we learn to ignore ourselves and what we mean to say and what we need to say, because we can't even trust our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, Audre Lorde is such inspiration for me, and her essay Uses of the Erotic as Power, like sort of that idea of like the erotic being sensorial and lived and embodied, and the pornographic being sensation without feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And my entire childhood, I was fed 100-calorie packs and thin bars. I was straight up chemicals, right? The simulation of substance, the simulation of nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
And I think my entire life's journey is learning how to trust myself. And if I relaxed, I didn't know it would come out, right? So I had to sit here and be performative and say what I've been saying forever. But, you know, I've been studying improv, and I'm a creative writer and all these things. So I have the tools, but I didn't trust myself. And so then I was trusting the wrong people, right? Because how could I could trust them more than I trusted myself. And then if you don't trust yourself, how do you actually show compassion to yourself and then even know your boundaries? And so it's this entire year has been a process of learning to trust myself.
That's so fascinating. You know, I don't think I had that problem ever. I just had trauma.
Yeah.
Because I would watch my mom's behavior and go, that's bad.
Yeah.
Or I'm not doing that. And she'd make me do it anyway.
Yeah.
But that little defiant asshole inside went, I'm doing it, but this is fucking wrong.
Yeah, no, it got beaten out of me early. And I think diet trauma is real.
Oh, completely.
And I think a lot of people have it more than they realize.
Oh, I have it completely. You know what happened to me recently? Oh my God.
What happened?
I was in acupuncture for my menopause stuff, you know, to help me with hot flashes and stuff. So helpful. Like insane.
Really? I need to do acupuncture.
It's the best.
Okay.
I have the wonderful woman.
Okay.
She has Japanese acupuncture. She's great.
Okay.
But she started asking me because I have long COVID, and it's all settled in my gut. And so I went to her like, I have menopause and I have all this gut issue. This was before I actually knew that it was long COVID, what the gut was. But so she was like, let's start working on your gut. So what was your diet like as a kid?
Uh-oh.
So I was like, gay?
We don't talk about that.
Well, my mom was macrobiotic and regulated everything I ate. She went, How were your bowel movements? Were you constipated? And I was like, yeah. She was like, you were badly constipated. And the inside of my body starts shaking like this, just shaking. And I'm like, fuck, I've already dealt with all of this stuff. I don't want to do this again.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Did you take any supplements? Yeah. I had to take 21 vitamins a day, had to drink niacin, had to eat brewer's yeast, had to eat spirulina. And she was like looking at me like, and my body's just shaking.
Yeah.
Just shaking. And I, one might say, your mom was just concerned with your health. She had you eat really healthy, no sugar, no processed foods, but she regulated my bowel movements. She would make sure that I had a bowel movement. And if I didn't, she would like watch me have one in the door. All this stuff is so my whole body is just in pieces, and I'm crying and I'm angry because I'm like, I've already done this work.
Yeah.
Where have you come from? I can't believe this is coming up again.
Yeah.
But that food trauma happens in so many different ways. Food insecurity, being overfed. My grandmother always said she had one daughter who was very overweight her whole life. My Aunt Diane was always very overweight. She was born a really big baby and just was always heavy.
Yeah.
And my grandmother always said it was my fault. It was my fault because my oldest ate nothing. My second, which was my dad, had so many food allergies. Like he had to have goat's milk and he had like legit food allergies that I finally had a baby that would eat, and I just fed her everything I had in my kitchen from the time she was born.
Yeah.
And you think she didn't even have time to get hungry. She was already shoving something else in her mouth.
Yeah.
So she spent her whole life really overweight. The only person in our family that was really overweight was her. And, part of that's her genetics, I'm sure. But I wonder if part of it was that my grandmother was like, finally, someone who eats.
Yeah.
Let me just shove everything in her mouth.
All these circumstances, there's no cultivation of self-trust, right? Knowing when you're hungry, knowing when you're full, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's like, you're going to shit when I tell you to, or like, you don't even get to get hungry, right? And I don't know. I think there's a lot of problematic culture around food and diet, whether it's food scarcity and just even like, it's no mistake that the people who are invested in Weight Watchers also are invested in Kellogg's. So they want you to lose the weight, go to Kellogg's, gain the weight, and go back to Weight Watchers.
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's gross.
Yeah. I mean, that's America, man.
Yeah, but I don't like that.
Yeah.
Maybe America, but I don't like
that. Fuck that shit.
I know, right? That's so stupid and not loving.
I know. And it's the profit over people, and
boy, isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Speaking of my long COVID, I haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but I kept going to doctors saying, I got COVID. My bowels got screwed up day one.
Yeah.
And it's never left. I'm like 10 months in. And I go to my regular doctor. Blood work's normal. Took stool sample, blood work your stool is normal, colonoscopy, everything's normal. I'm like, but it's not normal.
Yeah.
I'm not normal.
Yeah.
I haven't been normal since day one of COVID. And I'm like at that point I was on like month 4.
Yeah.
And maybe try eliminating some foods. And I'm like, this is not what's happening. My gut health is totally screwed up.
Yeah.
So then I started doing acupuncture to see if that would help. It's not helped at all.
Yeah.
Helped the menopause stuff. Like amazing.
Yeah.
Didn't help the gut health.
Yeah.
So finally, Bert's trainer was like, why don't you go to this other place? It's like an alternative medicine place and have them do your blood work and see what they said.
Yeah.
Oh my God. They read my blood work and was like, yeah, you have long COVID. Here's the inflammation here, inflammation in this test, inflammation in this test, inflammation. Your inflammation is like, it's your normal inflammation is like from 1 to 5. I don't know what 1.5 is, like grams or whatever. Mine was at 22.
Jesus
So he's like, this is the highest I've ever seen. This is, COVID is an inflammatory disease. It inflames your organs. It inflames every organ. And it's still in you're still inflamed. This is all long COVID. Just because you're not coughing, just because you're not having respiratory problems, although to have some slight respiratory problems, this is what it is.
Yeah.
You're fatigued at 2:00 every day. You're like, oh my God, how am I going to get through the day? And I said, why didn't my doctor read my blood work?
Yeah.
And he said, there's no money in it. The insurance company won't let them do their job that way. He said, it's not your doctor's fault. It's the insurance company's fault because they regulate what they can address.
That's so messed up.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So I got a second opinion from a different alternative medicine place who read my blood work, gave me the same answers as the first opinion. And I asked them the question, Why didn't my regular MD and the guy I went for a colonoscopy and the nurse practitioner I talked to in her office, I've talked to all 3 people about my symptoms, and none of them gave me any help.
Ugh.
And he said the same thing. There's no money in it. So they gave me 6 medications, and some was for gut health. Some was for, because of my gut health, it started affecting my thyroid and all this stuff. And they were like, we can tell that all this is working because of all this inflammation. $400 for 3 months worth of, it's like nothing. That's nothing. That's why there's no money in it. I'm paying full price for 6 medications is only $400.
I cannot wait for you to talk to Elizabeth Sist and her book Hysterical.
I can't wait to talk to her either. She's on my list to read.
Because her book is about this specifically. And that,
is it?
Well, part of it is that she started silencing herself and it manifested in physical ailments. And then when she went to the doctor, there was so many misfirings that she ended up making her sicker. And she writes about how, like, number one, what's lucrative health wise, but also that, like, when it comes to medication testing, they always test on white male bodies and everyone else is seen as a variant or abnormal.
Totally.
And so medication, she talked, I don't know if she wrote about, but she told me about how, like, her friend took some medication and almost drowned in the bathtub because it was not dosed for women. It was dosed for men. And so how there's a lot, it's just it's money.
You know what's really crazy? Money. I'll tell you a crazy story that makes what you just said even more shameful.
Yeah.
My dog is a bull mastiff.
Yeah.
Right? Had to take him in for surgery. I got a lower dosage of pain medication than my 15-pound terrier when she got injured. And I questioned it. I was like, this is a really low dose. It's going to work. This dog's 150 pounds. And he goes, oh, yeah. Any mastiff breeds, they metabolize medication like a horse. So they actually, we don't really prescribe them based on canine standards. We prescribe them based on equine. And I was like, how do you know that about a bull mastiff? And you don't know that about a woman versus a man. That's ridiculous. The veterinary world knows that, but we don't know that. Come on now. Somebody's like, I don't even know what to say. So yes, my bull mastiff takes far less medication than my 15-pound terrier because they know that much in veterinary medicine. It's ridiculous. It's stupid. It's so counterintuitive. What was really crazy to me is I had 2 people at these 2 alternative health places say it's because the doctor, one of them said to me, and I don't know if this is true. So this is completely what a person said to me, and I don't know that it's true.
Yeah.
But what was said to me was the insurance companies discourage regular doctors, and I'll probably hear from doctors and nurses going, this is not true. Please, I would love to know that this is not true.
Set the record straight.
It upset me so badly when I heard this. If this is true, this is terrible. That the doctors are discouraged from preventative medicine in certain areas because there's no profit in it.
Oh my God.
So they don't prescribe preventative stuff. The first thing both of the alternative places said, the first thing you need to do is get on this thing called GI Revive. It's like a drink that you drink that resets the microbiomes in your body because you have all these prebiotics and probiotics and bacteria, healthy bacteria in your body. When your body's really inflamed, you have too much bad bacteria. So you have to do something to balance that. It doesn't just work itself out.
Yeah.
And how come my 2 regular doctors didn't know that? I can't be the only person that comes in going, I have GI trouble. But why? That GI Revive costs like $40. It's like nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't even buy it from the doctor. It's a supplement. And I thought, well, I hope to God the person that told me that is misinformed. That our regular doctor, but my experience of my regular doctor lines up with that information.
Yeah.
Because why don't they, and maybe you could say, maybe your general doctor can't know everything or every supplement or whatever, but I saw her and a nurse practitioner and whatever the colonoscopy doctor is called. What he's got
gastroenterologist.
Something, that thing. That thing. The guy who, that guy.
The guy who put
But nobody knows. Okay, the guy that's in charge of your GI doesn't know about this supplement. Give it a shot.
Well, it just, bringing it back to AAA, it feels like you're dealing with the AAA automation system and you have to get someone who's like, you know what? I don't want to tell you this, but you have to get insane. You know, it's like, and again, it's like if we all understood, like we are all dealing with insane systems. And I think the only way to survive is to be human.
Yeah.
And be like, wow, you know what? The insurance company doesn't want me to say this, but you should get the GI tract. Like,
yeah. Another thing that a person said that was telling me this said, the insurance company says you have to see a patient every 15 minutes. They don't have time to suss this out with you. And coincidentally, I was at a party a couple nights later of the moms who were, all our kids went to college this year. And her daughter is pre-med. And she said her dad and I are trying to discourage her from it because her dad's a doctor. He's 51 and he's going to retire because he feels like he can't effectively take care of his patients because the insurance company is saying you have 15 minutes. And then if you don't hit that 15-minute mark, we're going to ask you why. We need to know why you didn't see someone. And he goes, this is not what I started this for.
No.
I started this to care for someone.
Yes.
Not to say, you're on the clock, go. You know, you can't do that.
How can you accurately assess someone and be with someone for 15 minutes? Like, doctors are meant to be healers.
Yes. They have to listen. They have to problem solve.
Yeah.
They have to use some instinct. How can you even connect to your instinct when you're like, I got 15 minutes? It's ridiculous.
That's insane.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. My dad did not want us to be doctors.
I would imagine not.
And my grandfather was a doctor. My dad's a doctor.
But they were doctors also in a different era.
Well, right. But
this
I think
is a new era,
I could have been a doctor, you know?
You totally
but also
could've.
at the same time, it's like, not in this system.
Not in this
you know,
system.
like I heal people through helping them find their words. You know?
Which, by the way, my friend Kelly Brown did your workshop.
Oh,
she
she's
loved
so
it.
Wonderful.
Isn't she great?
She's so wonderful.
Little sweet published author. That
I
she
can't
is.
wait to read her new book.
I know, me too. I just read it. Whatever.
Oh,
I read it. She gave me the advanced copy. I printed it out on my LaserJet printer. It was really great. She did a great job.
She's so fantastic. Yeah, and then I'm gonna do Artist Way this January again as well.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me the dates.
I don't know when it starts, but I think I'm gonna do 3 sessions. I'm gonna try to do one women only one.
Oh, that's
as well, because I did an expedited this fall, and it was all ladies, and it was just really wonderful. But I'm in the process of rebranding, so my website's getting a whole facelift.
Nice.
So everything's getting a facelift. I'm trying to like elevate everything that I'm doing.
Excellent.
But for anybody who would like to do Artist Way January through March, it's a 12-week spiritual program. And you can go through my website and I'll put you in the contact sheet. And then when my website's up and running, you should be able to buy the class on the website.
And then I will sponsor a scholarship again.
I appreciate that.
Of course. I love supporting you. And I love supporting people who listen and finding their way.
Yeah.
You know, whatever their way is.
Well, so many of my students are Wife of the Party listeners.
I love that.
And it's always interesting because, again, I'm trying to facilitate our artistic community. I'm trying to, you know, like be like, it is possible to live a different way, to be joyful, to be creative, you know?
Isn't that the truth?
And so yeah, if you're just like 2023, you want to reboot, or you're a deeply creative person and you haven't been able to facilitate that in your life, like join us, you know? And it's been beautiful each time that I've done it. And I'm doing that, and I'm doing my newsletter, Newly Sober, which is still going and is now weekly. And then writing coaching as always.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You're just getting it done.
I'm trying, you know, I keep trying to get a real job. No one will have me. So I just keep making them up.
I bet that is not entirely true. You know what? Sometimes I think
rejection is God's protection.
Is that what it is?
I mean,
that's a good little saying.
I would love to start a podcast as well. People keep being like, you should have your own podcast. And I'm like, I can't. The idea of like, I'm not a sound editor. I don't want to have to do, but I'm also just, that might be happening in 2023. We'll see.
That'd be fun.
It would be.
That'd be amazing.
It would be.
What would you talk about?
I'm thinking about this idea of stepping into your power. And yeah, that's as far as I've gone.
Would you have guests?
Yes, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Would you be a guest on my podcast?
Well, of course. Absolutely.
Okay, great.
I would love that. Thank you for coming.
Of course.
It's so nice to see you. And I'm sorry that we don't get to go to lunch or hang out. I'm so sorry.
Girl, I'm busy too.
You are busy. You're almost, you're in New York for the summer. And then you're back. And I have been like, as we say in the South, like a one-armed paper hanger. Like, I don't even really know what that means, but it means busy as shit.
I love Southern sayings.
There's so many great ones. I have a very funny story. I was Siri does not speak Southern. And one of my friends said, hey, why don't you bring the kids over tonight? We'll have pizza and they go trick-or-treating in our old neighborhood. And I said, that sounds great. Let me check with Isla and her posse when I pick them up from school today, and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
It changed posse to pussy. And right? And I pushed send and then read it and it went,
oh no.
Still voice texting because I'm an idiot. I meant posse. And it said, I meant pussy. And I said, posse. And it said pussy. And then I was like, fuck it. Because I was on the treadmill. I was trying to text while walking. So I typed in all capital posse. And then the diatribe, the insanity that came back from all the people were texting was like, what did you say? You said Isla's what? You have to check with her what? And I'm like, it's posse. Siri does not speak Southern. I said posse. So they were like,
yeah, I meant Isla's pussy.
I know, right? That's I'm going to check with her pussy. No, one person on the thread went, maybe you should change it to crew or people. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And
maybe gang.
Another mom said, I think you should just stop. Just stop. So yes. Although that's not a Southern saying, it happened because Siri does not understand my accent. It happens constantly with Siri. But this one really, really was pretty special. I should read it to you. It was pretty funny.
Oh,
the comments that came in afterwards were kind of brilliant. Here, I'll say.
I mean,
someone said, check with Isla's what? And I said, call fucking pussy her pussy. And then it went, posse, and I'll capped her. And then someone else went, her pussy? And then my friend Lynn said, you should just stop. And I was like, posse, Siri doesn't speak Southern. Steven said, my top 10 favorite text thread of all time is this. And then Eric said, I'd use crew or squad going forward. And Lynn said, anytime Isla's all capital crew is welcome here. And then my other friend said, my pussy will plan to be there. What time do you want our pussies there? Not sure how many my pussies will fit, but my pussy's coming. And then her husband says, you can cock me out. I'm traveling. And then Lynn goes, did you say you want a quote head count?
oh,
and I said, only for some salad, which will be tossed. I have the best friends on the planet.
Does Isla know this happened?
No, she has no idea. She has no idea. I thought I have the best friend group ever.
Yeah, that's how you know you have good people around you.
Right? Everybody was in on it. Everybody.
Wow.
Except
I
for
just laughed
Bert.
so hard I was either going to pee or barf. So thank you for that. That's how you know. Thank you for sharing that with me and everyone. I think we all need that.
Funny. We were dying. I was dying. As soon as it went through, I went, oh my God, it said pussy. I got to fix that.
Oh. Isla. Don't watch this.
I know, right? And with that, we will say thank you so much for coming.
I love you so much.
You too. I love you too, Paulina. So are you leaving again when you come back?
Yeah. Going to my best friend's wedding this next weekend, and then I'm potentially going to Portugal with my family.
Oh, how fun. That's amazing. Why Portugal?
We're going on a cruise for our 30th.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
Oh, for all your 30ths?
Yeah.
Oh my God. 11/11.
Make a wish.
Make a wish. Well, happy birthday if you're in Portugal on your birthday.
Thank you.
If not, I'll definitely take you to lunch for your birthday or dinner or whatever you want.
I would love
be lovely.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
We'll do it.
I love you, Paulina.
I love you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.